My 22F BF M23 is mad that I used his phone to unfollow all female accounts on his Instagram after he told me to unfollow all my male friends/colleagues. He says it's not the same thing. Is this grounds for breakup? I, 22F, have been seeing him for around 6 months and we have recently moved in together. I'm not a big social media user, however, I do have an Instagram that I check from time to time, maximum once or twice a month. Since I'm not really that into social media, I never even thought of adding him. All the people I follow are colleagues/friends who I've followed after they had followed me years ago. Some of them are guys. The other day he saw me open the Instagram app and got upset since he thought I was hiding the fact that I have an Instagram. I explained that I'm not hiding it, otherwise I wouldn't be browsing it with him sitting next to me. He then asked me why I wasn't following him then. I apologized and explained how I'm not very big on social media and didn't see it as a big deal, and that I don't even follow some of my closest family. I followed him regardless after apologizing. Suddenly, he became completely distant that whole day. I asked him what was wrong by evening time and he confronted me, telling me that he didn't like that my following was mostly men. He says it looks bad since people know that I'm his girlfriend. I tried to reason with him and explained that all of those male accounts are colleagues, and the reason why it's mostly males is because my job is very male-dominated. I also explained that I wasn't even the one who followed them first, I just returned it out of courtesy after they had followed me. He wasn't having it and threw a fit explaining that it's still not okay. Eventually, I got so annoyed that I told him I was going to delete my account since I don't even use it. The following day we were chilling and I noticed him scrolling through his Instagram feed. I noticed multiple photos of females. My anger was brewing, but I stayed calm. He went to take a shower, then I took his phone and checked his Instagram. Lo and behold, his following is filled with girls and even some IG models here and there. In my moment of rage, I spitefully unfollowed every single female account. He only noticed later that day when his little sister messaged him asking him why he had unfollowed her. He became really angry with me. I told him if he wanted me to unfollow the men, then he should unfollow the women. He wasn't having it and said it's not the same thing since he was a man and he knew how men think. He said men who follow me see me as a potential fuck in the future if I break up with him. I asked him if that's how he felt about the females he followed and he said no, because he's not that kind of man, but that most men are like that. He says I was crazy and we basically haven't had a civil conversation since then. I, 29F, am disappointed with how my fiancé, 30M, proposed. My fiancé, 30M, and I, 29F, discussed at length about our relationship and marriage, and with it was details on the ideal proposal. To me, I wanted it simple, but the two things I wanted were photographer, so we could have nice photos to look at to remember this big step in our relationship. Something sentimental to our relationship. For the proposal, he took me to a random park that had absolutely no meaning to us. It wasn't even a pretty park to walk around or look at. He had nothing set up either. We walked aimlessly around the empty grass, and he got down on one knee randomly and proposed. I was genuinely really happy when he asked, because I figured perhaps he planned something that didn't get pulled through, so I said yes. He told me later that the proposal is up to him, and he didn't want any frills or to waste more money on, because he already had to buy a ring to my liking. The park was just a random park we drove by on the day he decided was the right day to ask. I asked if we could maybe have a staged proposal/engagement shoot, and he said that I was obsessed over the wrong things, and got angry, and said that I'm being greedy and ungrateful by thinking him asking was not enough. I'm not sure how I can let him understand how disappointed I am, and that at least having photos would mean a lot to me, or if I should even stay in this relationship. Any advice on how to approach this? Before anyone talks about finances, we are well established. And the ring I asked for was cubic zirconia. I never wanted to be scared of wearing my ring, and it never made sense to me to spend so much or a ring. My 40F daughter, 18F, said she'd spend an extended weekend at one of her best friends, but she's at the other end of the country instead. How should I approach this? I'm going to keep this short and straight to the point. My daughter is a college student, and thanks to a flexible schedule, she decided to take an extended weekend trip to one of her female high school best friends who goes to school in a city about 2 hours away. My daughter lives at home. My husband and I approved of the trip, and she left Thursday morning, and is supposed to return Monday night. Well, she didn't actually go there, as we found out this morning when one of my nieces sent me screenshots from her Instagram stories which show her with a man we don't know, in a tourist town 12 hours away. She seems to be having fun in the photos/videos. We feel worried for her though, and also upset at being lied to, as we don't have a history of being controlling for her to be hiding things from us like this. We haven't even bothered her since Thursday except to make sure that she arrived and she's well. I don't think it's unreasonable to accept a notice from the person you're sharing the house with to know where they are, especially as parents. How should this be approached? My husband wants to call her and confront her over the phone, but I think the more appropriate approach is to let her come home first and have a sit-down conversation about this. We don't want to make a rush decision, 'cause we all know how teens are. Thank you in advance for your help. Edit due to assumptions. Approved of the trip means hear her out and give her the money for it. She doesn't have personal income at the moment, by her own choice. My husband, M36, told me, F35, that I should buy closed-toed shoes since I don't do my toes. My husband, M36, and I, F35, were at Target and I mentioned needing new shoes for work. They're pretty beat up and he agreed, but then he added, you should look for some closed-toed shoes since you never do your toes. I was a bit hurt by this and said that's not very nice, to which he responded that I took it the wrong way. Since it really hurt my feelings and he didn't understand why or apologize, I brought it up later and it started a huge fight. He said, so I told you to paint your toes, get the fuck over it. Things calmed down and he later apologized, but now I feel very insecure about my feet. I have Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disease. One side effect is very brittle nails. I've always tried to grow out my finger and toenails to paint them, but they always break. I guess it makes me feel insecure. Am I being too sensitive? I'm just disappointed he feels this way about my appearance, but I may just be overreacting because of my insecurity. I'm also a bit bothered he didn't reassure me afterwards, just said, sorry. Edit, to be clear, my toes are clean and healthy. I keep them moisturized, and my nails/nail beds are free of fungus. The only thing is my nails are always short. They don't look bad emo, which is why I never felt the need to hide them. They're just short because they are brittle, so I don't normally bother painting them. That's it. Thank you to everyone that responded. I understand my partner has a right to like what he likes, just as I have a right to wear my toes the way I feel most comfortable. I just didn't appreciate that when I said I didn't appreciate the comment, his first reaction wasn't to apologize. I feel he should care about my feelings. They are, after all, my feet.
I 40M. Am thinking of not visiting my elderly parents, 70M, 72F, at Christmas due to my dad's behavior. Parents are in the 70s and divorced. My wife and I are early 40s. I'm sitting here trying to figure out when everybody is available for a visit and wondering if I should bother. Background. Parents divorced 20 years ago. Dad left for his employee. I broke off contact, but Mom begged me to stop. Dad is still with girlfriend. They don't live together. He and my mom are friends, if you can believe it. She would take him back. I lived overseas for many years. He is part of the reason I left. Dad was very emotionally and verbally abusive, mostly to my mom, but he hasn't changed. My visits while overseas were quite rare. My dad had a dog who died 2 years ago. He claims to have loved it like nothing else, but I personally witnessed him hit her with the lead, and he habitually fed her chocolate. The dog died near Christmas Day, so now he refuses to see anyone or do anything during that week. He refuses any kind of help for anxiety and depression. I suggested everything. Now, I sent an email detailing a couple of work-related wins from both my wife and me. I had to restart my career when I returned from overseas, and it was a really big deal to me. I mentioned that our dog is going to a daycare place on a farm when I have to go into work. My dad replied with his usual snide comments ending with a sorry to my dog, with the implication that me taking a promotion is somehow abusive to my dog, who will be having the time of his life with his dog friends. My wife and I both work, and both of my parents are retired. We were going to try to see them both over a couple of days Christmas. We live about 3 hours drive away. My dad is not available for about a week because he chooses to be in mourning. I know for a fact that he is pissed off at me because I don't visit or call him very often. To be honest, I find him insufferable. He's never proud of anything I do and only has criticisms or instructions for what I should be doing. He even thinks he knows better when it's my specialist field. Phones work both ways. He never calls but expects me to schedule a call days in advance, which I never do admittedly. I get the occasional call from my mom and I do the same. I've thought of going just to see my mom, but I know she'll suffer for it. He usually just comes over to her to see us all, and he just brings the mood down. I've regretted not staying estranged from him. I know that if I argue with him it will escalate and I won't speak to him again. Am I one of those people who sticks around for the inheritance now? I almost forgot. My mom's reply completely ignored my news and was basically a list of dates she could do, and that she was looking forward to seeing us. She's very wrapped up in herself. Not in a malignant way, but just exists in her own bubble. You can't have a normal conversation with her, but I get the impression she doesn't mean it. My dad has visited us once, specified the lunch he wanted us to have in for him. My mom doesn't drive and won't take the train, reasons unknown at this point. She uses the bus all the time. She's not able to negotiate our old house steep stairs anyway. I know family issues can be difficult, but I'm just at that point where there is no good option.